The magic and the Achilles heel of the life of a showgirl is a line on the closing track. You don't know the life of a showgirl, babe, and you're never, ever gonna. That is the thesis of the entire album, probably in a way she didn't intend. This record proclaims to let us in, showing us what it's really like to be the most famous woman on the planet, but it doesn't really. The concept isn't fully executed, the visuals are misleading, and a proper single might have saved the rollout from the shock and confusion that followed. I've ignored most of the discourse around this album on TikTok, etc., because honestly, it's been exhausting. I saw Rolling Stone give it 5 stars, which I thought was delusional, and then I saw The Guardian give it 2 out of 5, which felt a little unfair. And then I logged off, basically. I really had to take some time to sit with this record to form a coherent thought about it because the culture wars and the astroturfing campaigns are working overtime. I am obviously the Swiftologist, so take my review with a grain of salt. If for whatever reason my close following of her work for the last 20 years rubs you the wrong way, I'm accused by the Tay Triers of being too nice to her and of secretly hating her by the Tay Warriors, so I can't win. But I can give you my honest opinion, putting aside the cultural discourse about this album, because that's been discussed ad nauseum already, and really trying to analyze this as an isolated body of work, but in the context of Taylor's wider discography. Taylor Swift's legacy is deeply important to me. Duh, I'm invested in it. I started a whole podcast cataloging each and every day of it. So this album release season was deeply confusing for me. It was a constant, we're so back, it's so over, on repeat until I felt like I couldn't actually see this record for what it was. So that's why this review is 2 weeks late. I needed a minute to collect my thoughts and also to attend my best friend's wedding in India. If you're new here, my name is Zach. I'm a sociologist. I make thoughtful weekly videos about pop culture, and this is my long overdue life of a showgirl review. And before we get any further into today's video, here is a word from our sponsor, CyberGhost. Today's video is sponsored by CyberGhost VPN, the only VPN I trust when I'm trying to pretend that I live somewhere I don't to accomplish a critical goal, like buying a signed version of The Life of a Showgirl from the US merch store. CyberGhost comes in clutch when you're trying to snag geolocked merch or get in line for a Ticketmaster presale in a different country, or just generally trying to protect yourself. With over 38 million users worldwide and 20,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, CyberGhost is one of the best VPNs out there. It encrypts your traffic and reroutes it through secure servers in over 100 countries, meaning no one, not your Wi-Fi, your internet provider, your roommate, or your workplace IT guy, can see what you're doing online. It works on all devices, protects up to 7 at once, and doesn't keep logs. Even they don't know what you're up to. Perfect for streaming concert specials, snagging cheaper flight deals, or just stopping random data goblins from tracking you. You can grab 84% off just $2.03 a month and 4 months free using the link in the description below. There's also a 45-day money-back guarantee, so you literally have nothing to lose, except maybe your spot in the Taylor merch queue for a signed CD if you wait too long. Protect your data, stream globally, and finally cop that signed CD diva. Thank you again so much to CyberGhost for sponsoring this video. I have a million things that I wanted to say about this record, and not all of them could fit into my 10-minute TikTok, so this is an expanded version of what I wrote for my TikTok script. Off the top, what I want to say about this record is that it's a mixed bag. Showgirl is definitely in my bottom 3 Taylor Swift albums, though obviously I'm still a Swiftie and I've been streaming it nonstop, but it's the first album since Lover where I have completely intolerable skips. The problem isn't that it's unserious or that it's silly, it's that for a not insignificant portion of this record, it's my opinion that the writing doesn't hold. Taylor Swift is known and beloved for her lyricism. She is clear and sharp, she is direct, she is funny, she is deeply human, and sometimes she's a little bit sinister. There are flashes of that brilliance here, but overall this project lacks focus, which is a funny thing to say about Taylor Swift, the master of the era who designs a whole world for you to participate in with each album release. In my mind's eye, Showgirl is a scrapbook. There are flashes of great ideas taped on all of the different pages, but they don't always come together to form a unique whole, and I think that has everything to do with how it was made. Taylor has been working at an impossible pace. In the last 5 years alone, she's released 5 studio albums, re-recorded a good portion of her discography, and performed the biggest tour in history. Showgirl sounds like it was written on the weekends between tour stops because it was. She's mentioned in interviews that sometimes she could barely lift her arms in the studio after a show, and I think that fatigue has made its way into the music. You can hear the burnout in the unevenness all over this record. Some songs, Ruin the Friendship, Father Figure, are sharp and fully formed, but others feel like they slipped through the cracks of a system that just isn't filtering ideas the way that it used to. Eldest Daughter is an appallingly lazy entry into the track 5's canon, which are supposed to be the emotional centerpieces of her albums, with a genuinely gorgeous bridge confoundingly plonked in the middle of some of her worst writing ever. This song is the clearest sign of what's gone wrong here, an erosion of precision. Eldest Daughter is no emotional centerpiece. It's a mess. It starts with limp commentary about online culture. Everybody's so punk on the internet. And by the way, just because she says it's satire doesn't mean that's actually what it is. I think if you have to over-explain a song, you have to miscorrect people's perception about it, then you've kind of failed at making it understandable on the first listen. It then swerves into childhood memories, prattling on about romance with vague devotion. There is no spine to it, or as Yeats and then Didion might say, the center does not hold. The eldest daughter idea, which could have been a very powerful metaphor for female responsibility or inherited perfectionism, is merely a tagline. Instead of a powerful metaphor, we get every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter, so we all dressed up as wolves and we looked fire. Why don't we contrast that with The Archer? I bet you guys can't believe I'm saying this because I used to say The Archer most forced track 5. Well, I just hadn't met Eldest Daughter yet. This track 5 from Lover, which is a comparably bright and pastel pop record, knows exactly what it's saying in comparison. It is about self-sabotage, fear, and the internal panic of being truly known by your lover. The imagery is very simple, but it's super direct. I've been the archer, I've been the prey. I wake in the night, I pace like a ghost, the room is on fire, invisible smoke, brava. Every line serves the emotional idea of the song. Even the repeated, I see right through me, intentionally lands as a confession. It is clean and devastating in its restraint. Compare that with Taylor's refrain in Eldest Daughter. Right after We Looked Fire, she goes into, I'm never gonna leave you out. So many traitors and smooth operators, but I'm never gonna break that vow. I'm never gonna leave you now. What, pray tell, does that have to do with being an eldest daughter? We don't know who she's talking to, what promise she's keeping, or why it matters. And I know the Tavises are going to say, well, it's for Travis. But like, yes, obviously. In the context of what's written on the page, however, the literal lyrics of the song in front of us, they do not tell a cohesive story. These are the kind of words that sound meaningful until you really stop to think about them. There's no image or real feeling holding this song together. It's just a vague gesture towards sincerity. I truly believe she wrote this because she was going through the record and was like, I need a track 5. I'm gonna do this. There was a time not that long ago when not everything she wrote made the album. Now it feels like if a song exists, it's going on there. And weirdly, the shorter runtime of Showgirl hurts it more than it helps. I get the instinct to avoid another Torture Poet situation where people complained that it was too long and meandering, but this time she has swung too far in the opposite direction. It doesn't feel like she had a bunch of really great songs to choose from, just a handful of songs she liked enough to decide they were finished. Ruthless self-editing used to be her strength, and the Taylor's version vault tracks showed us just how brutal she could be about quality control in the past. She left Better Man off of Red because it was objectively too similar to All Too Well, which is the stronger song. To let that song shine, she had to let this other great song go. She also cut Message in a Bottle because compared to 22, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, and Trouble, it just didn't hit as hard as her other Max Martin pure pop collaboration songs. And with 1989, she left Is It Over Now, a literal future #1 hit, off the standard edition because it didn't fit the story that she wanted to tell. That kind of focus and discipline is what's missing on Life of a Showgirl. It doesn't feel like a carefully constructed statement. It feels like a snapshot of whatever she had the energy to make in between her tour dates. She's most definitely in her I have nothing left to prove era, which is fair, but the trade-off is that the quality control has slipped. While Tortured Poets was sprawling and overstuffed, Showgirl has the opposite problem. It's undercooked with a few A-list Taylor songs, a lot of B-, and 1 or 2 tracks that simply shouldn't have made it to press at all. I don't think she didn't try to make this album good. I think that perhaps she needs to let the dust settle for a minute so she can get back in touch with the precision that she is known for. I can feel her reaching for magic at several points here, but the clarity of vision is not there to direct her energy. And that's partly because the emotional center of this album, her muse, the thing it's supposedly built around, doesn't hold either. For a record that's so explicitly tied to her relationship with Travis Kelce, more than any Taylor Swift record in the history of time, it's striking how little of him exists on the actual record itself. He's everywhere and nowhere at once. She's name-dropping the world that orbits him, his team, his vibes, his hands, but she doesn't sketch him out as a complete person, which is interesting because Taylor has always been at her sharpest when she's writing about love. Even when it's messy, she can usually make you feel it. But here, for the first time, the muse feels more like an abstract concept than an actual person or a character on the page. One of the best things about Taylor's expanding multiverse is how it rewards close reading. Every new song ties into the last, little breadcrumbs connecting the heartbreak to reinvention. So when she said that she poured her heart out on the Torture Poets department, we already knew what she meant by the time we reached The Fate of Ophelia, the opening track of Life of a Showgirl. We had watched the unraveling of her last relationship for years, paranoia, isolation, and exhaustion, and then the implosion with the Maddie Healy interlude. We know exactly what Travis Kelce saved her from, but The Fate of Ophelia never really shows us how he saves her. We just know that he does. She gives us the ending of the story, but where is the middle? There's no tension or stakes to give that rescue feeling some weight. I Heard You Calling on the Megaphone is a cute nod to the podcast moment, but beyond that, there's just not much there in terms of story. The bridge tries to pull it all together, no longer drowning and deceived, all because you came for me, but it's literally the epilogue to a story we haven't read. It only resonates because we know the lore. This is the issue with Travis as a muse across this whole record. He's not a character. His love, his personhood is a concept and a symbol of this newfound stability she has in her life. He is presented as the perfect boyfriend. He's funny, he's sexy, he's loyal, he is a huge but he is very rarely sketched with any detail. On Eldest Daughter, she pledges her loyalty to him, but never defines what that means or why it's different from the other times she would have married someone with paper rings or died for them in secret. I don't think this is because their love is shallow. I think she's deliberately withholding. She's protecting it, keeping something sacred for herself. And also, she's now protecting the brand because Travis Kelce is very much part and parcel with the Taylor Swift brand now. But in doing that, she is writing around the relationship instead of from the inside of it. Taylor Swift is 100% entitled to her privacy, but vague vagueness is not a strength in her songwriting. So to me, Opalite stands out clearly as the one I Love Travis song that really sticks an emotional landing. It's also the breakout hit. People are resonating with it because the storytelling is grounded and it matches the production. This song sounds like sunlight. Max Martin's pop precision met her lyrical specificity here in a very effortless manner. Why? Because she's actually telling us a story. She places us directly in this scene at the outset. I had a bad habit of missing lovers past. My brother used to call it eating out of the trash. That is so good. It's funny and it's instantly human. It's also one of the only times on this album where we actually hear another voice besides hers. Quoting her brother gives the song some texture and some warmth. It's not just Taylor talking to herself in her marble palace. Here she's discovering something about love that feels both adult and a new experience for her. Love doesn't just save her, it also gives her purpose. I thought my house was haunted, I used to live with ghosts, and all the perfect couple said, when you know, you know. She's aware of the cliche and she's surrendering to it because cliches are cliche for a reason. There is truth there. The line, you finally left the table and what a simple thought, you're starving till you're not, is classic Taylor Swift songwriting. One clean and direct metaphor that holds up the whole idea of the song. Opalite is the only song on this record where you can actually feel the love that she's describing. This is what she thought Daylight was. Then we swing into Honey, and this is where she starts to annoy me because these two songs are almost good, and it's like she's short-circuiting here. It's not clear what the song is even about. At first glance, it seems to be about reclaiming a word that's been used against her, but it quickly morphs into a weird, hostile grievance list. There are in the bathroom, women gossiping behind their back with their white teeth calling her lovely. And what does that have to do with being called honey by a man? Taylor writes about anger beautifully when she's in control of it, but the anger on this song is perplexing because I don't think it's intentional. This is supposed to be a sweet song, her reclamation of something. And yet, by the end of it, lyrically, it comes across as petty ranting. The hook is undeniable. I love the way it sounds. I love Forever Nightstand, but the song has no idea what it's actually trying to say. Wishlist is even messier. The premise is simple. She has evolved beyond wanting material things because she's found something deeper in her love. But the way it's written completely undermines that message. She's never been more obsessed with brand names or luxury items than she is right now in this relationship with an athlete who also loves and cares about those things, which makes the song's general "I'm not like those people, I'm above that" attitude feel very hollow. It's also fascinating for what it accidentally reveals. The normal people in her world, her friends and acquaintances, people that orbit her, have wish lists that include fancy awards and contracts with Real Madrid. There just isn't enough substance on this song for those weird details to come across as anything other than out of touch and unnecessary. There's also a contradiction at the heart of the chorus. On her wish list is something she'll never have: to be left alone in a quiet suburban fantasy with her husband and a basketball hoop. Which is funny because she and Travis very clearly don't want that. They are very publicly building their mythology as a global power couple. These people care about being famous. Fame is their project and it is also their love language. She heard him calling on the megaphone, after all. Wishlist is a performance of detachment from a person who's never been more enmeshed in her material world. It's especially ironic given how blatantly cash-grabbing this era has felt at times with the endless variants and the sorry excuse for a movie. She has competing desires, two wolves inside of her: omnipresence and privacy. But she wants the former more than the latter, and the song insists that it's the opposite way, and so its meaning collapses. Honey and Wishlist are so defensive and contradictory that they become unclear and end up saying nothing. This album is a paradox to me because it seems like an ode to freedom written by a person who still cannot relax even when she has everything, the whole world in the palm of her hand, her forever person, every accolade you can dream of. And the teeth grinding continues on two of the most perplexing, hostile, and aggressive moments on Showgirl: Actually Romantic and Cancelled. Actually Romantic is a frustrating song because if you're going to swing this big, then the song has to be bulletproof. The concept is great, no notes, a sarcastic love song to your hater, but the execution of that is super bungled. It's almost really good, and then her meandering lyricism takes over and muddles the point. I am all for pettiness when it's done right. Taylor has written some of the greatest diss tracks of her career out of spite. Better Than Revenge is a terrifying, evil masterpiece. But the conceit of Actually Romantic, reframing Charlie's one-sided beef and obsession with her as affection, could have been iconic, but the song just doesn't explode musically. The chorus isn't catchy. The melody is flat. It feels like a missile launched out of nowhere for no real reason. And contextually, it's bizarre because Sympathy is a Knife, the Charlie song that allegedly triggered this, isn't even mean. It's about insecurity, jealousy, and self-loathing. How it feels terrible to be Taylor Swift's coworker. She is the colleague who gets every promotion and does it with a perfect blowout. That is a universally annoying experience. People connected with Charlie's feelings there regardless of who it was about. The worst thing that she says on this song is that she hopes Taylor breaks up with her boyfriend, which, to be fair, in Taylor's world might qualify as an act of war, but it's not a malicious song. If Taylor also didn't directly mischaracterize this song about Charlie being sick of seeing her face, then she wouldn't have set herself up for the punching down accusations. Boring Barbie isn't even that bad. She's been called worse in a song. We all know that. But Taylor perceives Charlie's actions in this song as a declaration of war. And I'm cheering for that because we love drama and petty mess, and no one is as good at petty as Taylor Swift. So why couldn't she land her punch here? I can't fully cheer because Actually Romantic has I forgot that you existed syndrome. She's pretending to be over something that she's clearly still thinking about. And for a diss track, it is strangely weightless. The second verse is especially painful to me. It's clunky, it's overstuffed with syllables, like she's trying to fit a whole paragraph into one bar just so she can call Charlie a chihuahua. There has to have been a more efficient way to get at that. It's so try-hard that it circles back to being cringe. However, thank God there is the bridge, because the bridge is the flash of excellence. Stop talking dirty to me. The glee and venom in her delivery is so delicious. I love that part of the song. It's absurd and it's unhinged, but then it's gone. It disappears back into that flat, boring chorus. Melodically, this song is dead on arrival, and Max Martin is capable of much better than this, so I'm holding him at least 50% responsible for that. And for the sake of comparison, Bad Blood obliterated Katy Perry with half the detail because the hook was undeniable. That was a smash hit. Actually Romantic wants that smoke but cannot light the fire. Another good idea undone by sloppy execution. Cancelled is, without question, the worst song on the life of a showgirl, and maybe one of the worst songs that she's put out lately. It's boring, tired, asinine, and completely pointless. Taylor Swift has written about cancellation on every single album since Reputation. We've had the angry version, Look What You Made Me Do, the sad version, The Archer, the funny version, Karma, and the peaceful reconciliation of the Evermore title track. And that is where her discussion of cancellation really should have ended there. I thought this pain would be forevermore, and it wasn't. But yet this nonsense continues. We're almost 10 years out from the actual act of her cancellation itself. Her career in that period of time has only gotten bigger. She is, at this point, the least cancelable person alive, though they are trying. And her language choices on the song prove that she is mentally stuck in that moment. Did You Girl Boss Too Close to the Sun is 2016 core in the worst possible way. And again, because she's not being specific, this song exists in a vacuum. What do Opalite and Cancelled have to do with each other? What's Showgirl about those two songs? I can buy the argument that being canceled is a showgirl experience, public humiliation, scrutiny, and surviving that, but she's not saying anything new about the experience on the song. The existence of Look What You Make Me Do renders this entire enterprise obsolete. Cancelled is an extremely dull echo of that moment without any of its musical eccentricity or vocal camp. The other issue is that she's not even really centering herself here. This isn't about her anymore. It's about her canceled friends. That was a choice. Not a good one, considering her recent proximity to people who have been taking heat for their politics. This is exactly how she ends up being accused of sympathizing with the wrong crowd. Not because she's actually some covert MAGA operator, but because the writing is vague enough and bad enough to let people project whatever they want onto it. And the worst part is, this song doesn't even sound good enough to justify all the mess. The production is flat, the melody goes nowhere, and even Max Martin couldn't save this one. In fact, if you listen to the voice memo of them writing it together in the studio, you can literally hear him getting confused. He's struggling to follow her melodic idea and keeps stumbling because it's not coherent, which makes perfect sense. The final product sounds like a first draft no one had the nerve to edit. If Cancelled proves anything, it's that Taylor has forgotten the purpose of a collaboration. It's not to have your co-writers or producers execute your whims like obedient foot soldiers. It's to fuse ideas and to challenge and sharpen each other until something undeniably good or interesting emerges. That used to be her strength. Here, it's gone. Cancelled is what happens when no one in the room says, you know what, this isn't good enough. Cancelled is cringe, but in my opinion, Would is catastrophic. There's no other word than humiliating for this song. It's the kind of song that makes you physically recoil, and not because it's so scandalous and provocative, because it's trying too hard to be so scandalous and provocative. This is Taylor attempting her best Sabrina Carpenter moment, the sultry winking, I'm in on the joke kind of sex kitten pop, but Sabrina's appeal is that she can pull that off. She's unflinchingly direct. She'll build an entire song about post-date sex around a house tour metaphor without blinking. I promise this is not a metaphor. I just want you to come inside. That is outrageous. So outrageous that it's genuinely funny, because it's also delivered with confidence. Sabrina knows exactly what character she's playing. We hear the same thing on Bedcam. Come right on me, I mean camaraderie. It's absurd, and she sells it because she's committed to the bit. Taylor, meanwhile, simply doesn't have that ability. She's not unself-conscious enough to pull it off. Wood wants to be cheeky and liberated, but to be honest, it sounds like what a virgin thinks a sexy song sounds like. It's not that Taylor can't write about sex. She can. Dress is one of the sexiest pop songs in her catalog. Those sparse, low synths pulse like a heartbeat, and her voice is part of the percussion, breathy, teasing, sighing, panting. Jack Antonoff helps her build this tension instead of killing it with punchlines. The chorus is sung entirely in falsetto, like a pleasured exhale. Only bought this dress so you could take it off works because she knows the power of withholding. Wood has none of that restraint. It's a lyrical and musical disaster. He Hypnotized me and opened my eyes. His love was the key that opened my thighs. The redwood tree, the magic wand. This isn't innuendo, it's bad erotica. Every line lands with a thud. You can hear her straining for that Sabrina style wink, but she can't commit to the bit. This is not her lane, it's not her area of expertise, and that's okay. No pop star can be everything. We've all heard Sabrina's attempts at writing Taylor Swift songs flopped. Taylor's power has always been intimacy, not provocation. That can take many different forms, and it can be very sexy. Look at False God, Slut, Wildest Dreams, Style. The list goes on and on, but Wood mistakes vulgarity for boldness and ends up embarrassing her. So that's the kind of dark underbelly of Showgirl: fatigue, hostility, overcompensating. But despite that, when Taylor lands a punch, it reminds you why she's still operating leagues above her peers. Let's do some Tay positivity. We've been needing this because there are moments on the life of a Showgirl where she's firing on all cylinders. Elizabeth Taylor and the title track are the two real Showgirl moments for me. Glitzy, razor sharp, fully committed to the bit. Sabrina is sublime on their duet. Her tone melts into Taylor's in this very satisfying way. The writing is tight and deliberate, and the production sparkles. This is exactly what I imagined when she teased Folklore and Evermore Precision, but with Max Martin production. It plays like a parable, a nod to all the people who once told Taylor she'd never be a pop star. I think about that post-Speak Now period when she was dismissed as a tween country girl by industry tastemakers who refused to take her seriously until 1989 forced them to. On Elizabeth Taylor, she's standing on the other side of that narrative, basking in the absurdity of her own unmatched longevity. On both of these two songs, she's saying, I'm still here. I'm selling 4 million records in my opening week. I'm untouchable now. That is the perspective that I came to this record wanting to hear. And can we have a moment for that classic Max Martin hook? Cry my eyes violet, Elizabeth Taylor. Perfect. It's witty and silly in the best way. The only woman alive who can compare herself to the original violet-eyed man-eater and make it feel earned is Taylor Swift. This is the reputation-coded sequel I hoped for when the visuals for this album started to roll out, and it's the only number on this record that truly justifies all that Vegas-coded glitter and glamour in the album imagery. Father Figure just might be the most fascinating thing on this record and one of the most interesting songs she's ever put out. It's a psychological study of control, legacy, and the corruption of success. I don't think it's about one person. It feels like a composite sketch. I could do a whole lyrical analysis on this song alone. What makes it hit, though, is the comfort of our narrator. When she admitted in an interview about this song that she saw herself in Logan Roy from Succession, it all clicked to me. She's identifying with absolute near tyrannical power. That is a terrifying and revealing confession, that she recognizes her own ruthlessness and dynasty-building tendencies, and that also she reaps pleasure from it. This is the closest we get to genuine self-interrogation on the life of a showgirl. Elizabeth Taylor is the showgirl as a goddess, and Father Figure is the showgirl as a tyrant. And these are both infinitely more interesting narratives than the she's in love and having fun, who cares if it's cringe, beleaguered story Swifties keep trying to staple onto this album. Stop selling her short. She is capable of more, and there is better around you. Those two narratives are very showgirl coded, but it's the moment of pure human clarity between these audacious numbers that is the real showstopper to me on this record. Ruin the Friendship is perfection. The production is plucky and dreamlike, like you're watching raindrops chase each other down a car window on a long drive. It has a dazed, nostalgic quality. She is remembering something small and interrogating its importance and making the personal universal. And hello, that's what her best writing does. The whole song is suspended somewhere between innocence and regret. It's deceptively simple until that twist lands, a summary high school crush that was never actioned. Then, a phone call from her childhood best friend Abigail reframes the entire song. This is no hypothetical, it is a real loss. The object of her affection is no longer with us. What's beautiful about this song is how soft it is. The sweetness of the melody, paired with the looseness of her phrasing, how she sounds almost childlike, culminating in this gut punch of a realization and delivering that universal truth. Say the thing you want to say before it's too late to say it. This is one of the few songs on the album that's both musically and emotionally complete. And it's also the kind of writing that made me fall madly in love with Taylor Swift as a writer in the first place. When I zoom out and look at Showgirl as a whole picture, those three songs are the ones that prove to me, thank God, that her spark is still there. Elizabeth Taylor is fun, grandiose, and irreverent, but still sharp. Father Figure is genuinely frightening, and Ruin the Friendship is fragile and pure. The life of a Showgirl could have been so much more had we followed these threads, or better executed the looser threads elsewhere on this track list. The rest of the record is uneven. There are flashes of either melodic or written brilliance surrounded by clutter, but these songs thankfully still reminded me why she's still Taylor Swift. My diva hasn't lost her spark, but I do think she is very tired. And I suppose that's the real life of a showgirl. You know, when you're at the peak of your showgirling power while running on fumes, you have to just keep making stuff to keep your crown. I don't think that this album is bad, but I do think that it's kind of lazy. She continues to refuse to edit herself down, which is frustrating, but also strangely fascinating. It's this quality that animated tortured poets and has whipped up the internet into a frenzy over the most minor lyrical details on this record. When Showgirl Showgirl does hit, it slaps, and it shows that Taylor's genius has never only lived in the confessional or the stripped back. So many people seem to think the answer to the problem of her too muchness on this record is to revert to folklore and evermore, but she has evolved beyond that style of writing and into something else. She's very into her character at this moment. Are you not entertained? She is ambitious, melodramatic, and hungry to translate her mythology, this world building that she's doing, into pop music. But at this point in her career, ambition alone isn't a reward enough. What worries me most about Showgirl isn't the missteps themselves, it's that there doesn't seem to be anyone around her that's willing or able to correct them. If a collaborator like Max Martin, who is known for being a bit of a hard in the studio, adhering strictly to melodic math, and also someone who helped her build her pop empire brick by brick, if he can't impose a little restraint on Taylor Swift, then the filtration system has completely broken down. Editing and refining her point until it's so sharp that it kills you. Risk-taking was, for a time, it seemed, important to her. I truly believe there's always something to gain through tension and challenge in art. It seems she's kind of lost her appetite for that, and somewhere along the way, Taylor's devotion to rigor has veered more into a devotion to output, constant motion for motion's sake. And sure, even when she's on autopilot, her talent still cuts through the noise. She can't help but write something compelling, she's that talented. But as a longtime fan, and also a critic, I want to see her remember why she writes in the first place. I followed her long enough to know that the beauty of her skill is the compulsion behind it. She doesn't write songs to move units and break streaming records, she writes songs because she wants to make the personal universal, to translate the human experience of love into song. I would much rather see her stop trying to be the biggest pop star in the world for just a second and refocus on being the best songwriter alive, because that's what she could be. But her commitment to overproduction is threatening her claim to that title. It took me so long to compile coherent thoughts about this album, so I would love to hear some of yours in the comments down below. Make sure to keep it cute in the comment section because, again, people are being crazy on the internet about this album, and this is just my opinion. You are free to disagree respectfully wherever you like, and I will see you next week. Let me know if there are any other Showgirl-related videos you would like to see, or any other videos. I've been talking about Taylor a lot for a hot minute, so I'm ready to kind of hop back into other stuff. I definitely want to talk a little bit more in depth about the Charli XCX Taylor Swift debacle, but after that, I want to keep my calendar open to surprise. So what have you been wanting to see? I would love to know. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye, Swiftologists. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay private, stay secure, and unlock global content with CyberGhost VPN. Now 84% off and 4 months free. Risk-free for 45 days. Links in the description.